And we are talking about how a man can identify the God-given purpose for his particular family and then ensure for the rest of his life, whatever he does is to help the family to go towards that particular purpose. Another way of looking at it is you have several choices in leading your family. There are three alternatives. You can lead your family backwards. In other words, you simply wait until you have made a mistake, then you learn from it. That's what we call reactive. You are not purpose-driven, you are experience-driven. Somebody said that experience is a wonderful teacher. The only trouble with it is very expensive. If you wait until you make a mistake and then, let's do it this way, you are not purpose-driven. A purpose-driven person already is clear where they want to go, the challenges they're likely to face, and how to manage those challenges. But there are families that learn as they go. It's experience that shapes them. But those ones are better than the second type of family, which simply ignores experience. I'm calling it the unchanging family, where there is a way you treat your wife and he gets annoyed, and that doesn't seem to tell you anything. Next week, you again treat her the same way and she gets annoyed. There's a way you treat your son and he doesn't look happy, but you continue the same. It sounds experience does not teach you anything. That's what one of the worst families to be in, where the wife and the husband are not learning anything from experience. And whether you would think that that's far-fetched, but many families are like that. When you go, and my wife and I have been involved in marital counseling, I think for the last 25 years or so. And one thing that is certain, you talk to your family, and the problem they had it 5 years ago, they had it 10 years ago, they have had it. So that when you are talking about this type of family, where experience doesn't teach them anything, they just continue in the same way. Actually, they exist, but they go through a very difficult time. So you can see, given that type of family, those who are reactionary, it sounds negative, but they are much better. These ones, at least, if they do something and it doesn't work, they don't repeat it. But today, my emphasis is that those two alternative ways of leading your family are not good. The better alternative is to be proactive. Have a clear purpose to which you are driving yourself and your family. Let me start by saying, for you to know whether your family is running well, or you as a couple are running well, there are 5 key performance indicators that you can use for your family in order to be sure that you're a purpose-driven family. Number 1, you cannot be purpose-driven if you have no spiritual oneness. Because one of the things that the scriptures will emphasize about a Christian family is spiritual oneness. Malachi 2:15 is saying that I made them one. Why one? That they be one in spirit. So it's very important to understand that you cannot be purpose-driven when you don't have spiritual oneness. That's why for those of you who are not yet married, you cannot marry a girl in order to evangelize her. Marriage is not a vehicle for evangelism. You first of all verify that she knows the Lord, that you all major doctrines, you are in agreement. If you go into marriage, then you end up with a purpose-driven marriage because you have the same spiritual goal. Your purpose is for both of you to end up in heaven, for your children to end up in heaven, but it all starts with spiritual oneness. And you need to be spending a lot of your time finding out how well are you becoming if you are not yet there. Second one is, KPI is, do you have an agreed family vision and mission is where your wife is pulling to and where you are pulling to, same direction, or you are pulling apart. One wants to go as a missionary to Saudi Arabia, the other one wants to win a green card and go to America. That family will have a very hard time, because almost any time there will be debate, because every decision will be measured in a different way. Is this helping us to win a green card? The other one is, we don't want a green card. We want to go to where people have never heard about Jesus. So it's critical to understand that if you are purpose driven, I can know by the oneness of your vision and mission. In fact, the question is, do you even have a family vision and mission? Do you even know what your wife's vision and mission is? Does she know what your vision and mission is? Have you tried to make them congruent? Have you debated it until now there is an agreed family vision and mission? If you don't, you can't call yourself a purpose-driven family. Thirdly, from the scriptures, companionship is the most important thing. In fact, we read that the reason why the first marriage existed is because God looked and he saw that it was bad, and he said it is bad that a man is alone. I'll create a companion, a suitable helper. So you need to understand that if you are really purpose-driven, then you must be increasingly becoming companion and meeting each other's loneliness needs. Friendship is an important measure as to whether you're purpose-driven. That means in your purpose, long-term, your vision is that there will be oneness, yes, but more importantly, you will be one friend, you will be in friendship. And that brings us to the fourth one, oneness in financial management. You know, there are people who are claiming to be purpose-driven, but there must be different purposes. Your wife's salary does whatever, and yours does whatever. You are not in agreement. A few things you do together. And you need to ask yourself, do you have financial oneness? If you don't, it will be difficult for you to say you have actually got a purpose-driven, because you don't have one purpose. Because finances support a purpose. If you have different finances, how will you be supporting one purpose? And it's important to ask yourself, is that something you're doing? And then number 5, if you have oneness of purpose, you will be transparent to each other. So you can rest assured, if there are some things you are hiding your wife so that your wife does not know. Your mother knows, but your wife doesn't know. Your father knows, but your wife doesn't know. Or your children know, but their mother doesn't know. You have no purpose-driven marriage. Purpose-driven marriage can only be possible when you are open with one another. That way you are able to work together towards the agreed purpose, to one purpose. And if I had enough time, I would have asked you to rate yourself between 1 and 5. 1 meaning on that particular count you are doing very badly. 5 means you are perfect. You don't need any improvement. And I'm telling you, a rating of 3 is not allowed. So 3 means I'm not bad, I'm not good. You rate yourself. 1, 2 means you are bad. 4, 5 means you are good. So 3 you don't rate. I have given you 5 key performance indicators for a purpose-driven marriage. And I'm telling you, rate your marriage between 1 and 5. 1 meaning 1 and 2 means you are doing badly. 4 and 5 means you are doing well. Don't give yourself a score of 3, because that's that is non-committal. It's not something you want. My prayer and hope is that as God helps you, you will give yourself a good rating, and then ask yourself, what are you going to do to improve on that score? Because unless you improve in that score, you will not do well as a purpose-driven marriage. And I think that will be very, very, very important for you as a person to do. Like I told you earlier, you can have the unchanging way of looking at marriage, the future of your marriage, or reactive or proactive. And my recommendation is that you are proactive. A proactive approach to things is where you strive to put in place a system to prevent undesirable eventualities. That means if you are proactive, you have a particular purpose for your marriage, the reason why your marriage exists. There are goals, there are things, there's a vision you want to achieve. And in order to achieve it, you strive to put in place a system that will help you go there. Also, you identify things that could prevent you from going there, barriers, and you work on them. That's what we mean by purpose-driven. There is a vision you are trying to achieve. There are barriers along the way, and you are working to ensure there is a system of dealing with those barriers so that you end up reaching wherever it is you feel you need to reach. I told you the reactive approach is different. You wait until something occurs, then you learn from it. The trouble we have in being a purpose-driven marriage, a marriage that is being driven by a vision that you are trying to achieve, is that our culture doesn't encourage this proactiveness. It doesn't expect you to, in any way, to operate like that. Now, my friend, it is very important to then understand we rely on experience as Africans. We are still talking about the African culture and the fact that the African culture is reactive, and we fear pointing out what might go wrong in future. So this thing I'm saying, in proactive culture, you put a destination, you put a vision, then you study how to go to that one, identify what can go wrong, and start correcting it in advance. The African doesn't want that. Even if I can see there is a problem, if I tell you about the problem, you are likely to think I want to bewitch you. Our culture does not wait until something goes wrong. It's let the owner let it come out with the owner. Let it come out with the owners. That's not purpose-driven. If you are purpose-driven, it will be important that you understand clearly that you must go ahead and study what is ahead and identify problems with it and start working on how to stop it. So, for example, you are not yet married. You can look into, if we get married, what are likely to be likely challenge, and you even discuss those kind of challenges before you have your marriage. I've written a book called Overcoming Marriage Challenges. You look at it and you can see those problems are likely to be there. Purpose-driven means in order for us to go to our purpose, these are the likely challenges, and this is how best we can deal with them. Unfortunately, it's not just our African culture that comes against being purpose-driven. It's also our beliefs in Christianity. If you start being purpose-driven, looking at what can go wrong, what can go right, people start thinking you have no faith. You are trying to arrange a wedding, then you say it might rain. Say you have faith. A proactive person, purpose-driven, will look at the possibility of rain during the wedding and ask themselves, if in case it rains, what shall we do? And they'll prepare thoroughly for the rain, because even if it doesn't rain, they will not have wasted their time. And if it rains, the wedding will still run well. That's what we mean by purpose-driven. You have gone ahead, thought about what you want to achieve as a couple, and then looked at the things that can go wrong and talk about how to prepare for them, or how to prevent them, or in case they happen, how to reduce their impact. But many Christians think it's lack of faith. You cannot be purpose-driven when you do not identify what can go well, what cannot go well in your marriage, in your family, as you look into the long-term future. And you know, Jesus talked about such people, and he did not have very kind words of them. Look at Luke chapter 14, verse 28. For which of you, intending to build a tower, let's say now intending to build a marriage, sits not down fast, does not bother to think in advance and count the cost, whether he is able to actually achieve the purpose. Finish. Verse 29 says, let happily, or if you don't prepare, you will start the foundation, but you'll not finish the tower. And then if you don't finish it, everybody laughs. This man began to build and was not able to finish. So how can you be entering into marriage after Jesus has made fun of you? You should never enter into a project, and marriage is one of them, before you have thought through what are the challenges of running that marriage. What do I want to achieve? Like this particular one wants a big building, maybe what we call a skyscraper, a tower. Now that's the vision. But he did not sit down to think about what can go right, what can go wrong, where will I get the resources. And Jesus says, they are going to laugh at you. There's something wrong with you. So our discussion today is the purpose, leading a purpose-driven marriage means you never make a decision until that decision is seen in the light of the long-term purpose, number one, and until you have thought of what can go wrong and how you can prevent it going wrong. And if you can't prevent it going wrong, how you will deal with what goes wrong. You know, in life, being proactive is always better. I mean, because it will be less expensive by preventing the undesirable occurrence. You know, if, for example, you are talking about a wedding and it actually rains on the day, you never thought what to do, you may end up stopping. The rain is so heavy you can't have a wedding, and reaches a certain time, it's night, you may have to postpone the wedding. It's a serious, the consequence of not being proactive can be very bad. Purpose-driven marriage means you cannot take your child to a school and you have only to discover you don't have enough money. And there are many people, some of you can say that your parents did that with you. They put you in an expensive school, they removed you, back to an expensive school, they removed you, because they are not purpose-driven. They haven't thought long-term. So, if you are purpose-driven, you must develop a vision. You must develop a mission, and you must have a core values for your marriage. When you talk about vision, this is a noun. It describes the impact of your total marriage. What do you think if the Lord gives you that long, to be 80 years? What do you think your marriage would have accomplished? Write it down. That's the way to develop your vision. And the vision is, what impact will your marriage make on your spouse? What will it have made on your children? What will it have made on the church you are a member of? What will it have made in your professional area? What will it have made in your clan or community? Or if you think you are going to have international impact, what kind of impact will it make? That impact is what we call vision. Vision is a noun, and it is a description of the impact you have made before your marriage ends. And if you think 80 is too young, to make it 90. So I encourage every family to develop a vision statement. And it starts by your wife writing one, then you writing one, and then making sure that you now develop a family one that incorporates both aspects, so that both of you are agreed. Because now we are married, this is the kind of impact we shall make. Some people just move from day to day. They don't even think, children will come, children will live. For many years, we are going to be just the two of us. But if you came to my house, you will not know whether we ever had children. And that's how way you can be. If you marry at 25, the first 20 years there will be children. That means by the age of 45, they may have left home. If you are dying at the age of 85, most of your life, you'll be just the two of you. How do you see your retirement years? All that has to be decided by the time you are beginning your marriage. That's what it means to be purpose-driven. You have the end in mind, even as you live today, so that today is advised by what you hope to achieve. Of course, it's not something you think on your own. It's in prayer. Because vision is what God has shown you as to what He wants you to accomplish. So vision is a calling. Vision is God-given. It's a result of prayer of the two of you. So you need to develop one. Then live the rest of your life, I repeat, in order to meet it. Having written a vision, you now need a mission. And mission is a verb. Mission is describing what you will do to achieve that vision. What are you as a couple going to do so that you can actually achieve the vision that God has shown you? A mission statement is for example, if your vision is something to us, ensuring that all that come our way know the Lord and glorify Him in their life. If that's your vision, and that's what you see by the age of 80, all these people I've mentioned will be talking about that, then how will you do it? Is it because are you going to be in as a mission statement is involving living a lifestyle of evangelism or something? You need to say, what will you do as a couple that will assist you to achieve that long-term vision? Then thirdly, if you are purpose-driven, you agree as a couple what your core values are. What are core values? Non-negotiable convictions, non-negotiable beliefs and values. And there shouldn't be more than 6, because core values are boundaries within which you travel to your vision. That means even if a certain activity would help you to go to your vision, but that activity is breaking your values, you are willing to fail rather than break that value. For example, part of your vision is assisting people financially for them to realize their potential. Oh, then you realize I can do something that will bring in money. But that thing I'm doing is not out of integrity, and my value is integrity. You are willing to fail in achieving your vision rather than break your core values. And they need to be agreed so that your wife knows she can't start asking you to do that in order to achieve the vision, because she knows that are not God's own. These are the boundaries within which we travel to our vision. Many families don't. So when the husband becomes very excited about something, he says, how could you do that? They should have discussed that in advance. If they are purpose-driven, their vision will be debated and agreed. Their mission will be debated and agreed. Their core values will be debated and agreed. And then once the 3 are agreed, regularly you will review your life to see whether you are moving towards your vision and whether you are actually carrying out your mission and whether you are operating within your values. That's what you mean when you talk about a purpose-driven person. So, what have I been saying? A marriage today must be more proactive than in history. Things are more challenging. We must be more intentional than ever before in our marriages if we are ever going to achieve the God-given vision for our marriage. You and your spouse must have a basic understanding of the kind of marriage you are trying to build long-term and what it will take to make it happen. What are the barriers? What are the challenges? It means that you are willing to work together as a couple towards that common purpose. That's why the most important thing in a couple's life is to agree what that purpose is. And for it to happen, you need, since we have said purpose is calling, there is a caller and it's God. It means you as a couple must determine to have fellowship with God. One of your values must be to please God, to have fellowship with Him. And for that to happen, it means you as a couple must agree to have the family altar, study the scriptures together, and understand marriage the way God tells you about it. It's a sacred thing. It's a permanent thing. It's a covenant commitment. You must get back to God's original plan and work His plan for marriage. Because if you are really purpose-driven, and we have said purpose is God's calling, then He calls you to have a mission that agreed with the Bible, to have a core values that are biblical. We have to be willing to die to ourselves to achieve that purpose and put our marriage and our mates above our own self-interest. So you'll not be driven by what am I going to get? It is, how will this help my marriage now that you are married? According to Rick Warren, who has written The Purpose-Driven Life, although I'm talking about the purpose-driven marriage, it is important that you have a dream. That's what I'm calling purpose. God shows you a dream of what the two have achieved. And Warren says, dreams inspire hope. Thereby, dreams stimulate the brain and mobilize the action center. Once you are clear about where you are going, it will motivate you to put effort into it. Hope is stimulative in planning. And then planning produces behavior designed to move the couple forwards. The end result is positive progress in your marriage relationship. That's why you need that dream. You need that vision. Is the dream equally inclusive for both you and your spouse and your life together? Or is it the husband with a certain purpose and he's pulling the wife along? Or is it the wife with a certain purpose and she's pulling the husband along? It needs to be an agreed one. Is the dream broad enough to include your children, to include your spouse? Are both of you strongly committed to this dream, to this vision that you have to your life together? Or does one think, no, that was not my dream? You must spend long enough debating it, prayer, listening to God, for both of you to agree that's the vision God has called you to. Let's put it differently as you think about this vision. What are you expecting out of your marriage? Or put it differently, what are the expectations of your mate? Ecstatic bliss? Is that what you're looking for? Aromatic paradise? Is that what the purpose is? Do you both want children or not? If so, how many children? All that is, in order to reach your purpose, are children part of it? Do you expect to make enough money to build your dream house? What kind of place do you see yourself retiring in? How realistic are these expectations? And what happens when they are not met? Like you want 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl, then you don't get any. Have you factored in the fact that what will finally happen is what God wants, such that your marriage cannot be affected, even if an item within your vision is dropped and it's beyond your ability to make it happen? What happens when your relationship gets boring? Someone say, this is a boring partner. Or when you have challenges, the relationship gets bumpy and bitter. Like I told you right at the introduction, that's what you need to, this is the purpose. For that to happen, we have these 5 things we have to do, and I can see it's difficult to do them. When they don't happen, how shall we deal with them? All of that is not during happy days. When the marriage is not bumpy, is when you agree, in case it becomes bumpy, this is what we shall do. What price are you willing to pay in order to have this purpose-driven marriage, to reach your purpose and go the full distance to realize what you have described as your vision? Are you both willing to make the relationship an absolute priority? Is this purpose, family purpose, an absolute reality? Or you are having your own secret purposes for which you are investing? Are you willing to be there for your spouse, even through the bad times, even when she has done something that has annoyed you, even when she is not pulling her weight? Is your marriage self-centered or God-centered? In your vision, was God part of it? Did you listen to God? Is one of your values God-centeredness? Is your first thought, what will make me happy? Or is it, what will make the Lord be glorified? As a couple, is the self-centeredness driving you? You will not reach your purpose. You need to have God's will as a priority in your life. What will make the Lord happy and ultimately strengthen my relationship with my spouse is what God has put in our heart. Let's talk about the core values. Do you and your spouse share the same values? This discussion is especially useful for the unmarried. But even if you have been married like me for more than 45 years, it's still an important discussion. What are your wife's values? What are your values? Debate them until they are congruent. Do you have similar religious beliefs? If you don't have the same doctrinal understanding, it will bring trouble with you being purpose-driven or going to the same purpose. What's really important to each of you? If you are not sure what you value, ask yourself, number one, what do I really want to be? What do I really want to be myself? Then you have your answer the same. What do I really want to do? You have your answer the same. What do I really want to have? If you answer those questions, you will see what it is you actually value. That will help you to realize if there is no valid, defined, and acknowledged purpose for your relationship, that chances are you'll have trouble keeping your marriage alive. What keeps a marriage alive is not love, although love is important. It's commitment to a purpose that requires both of you. And you realize you cannot reach that purpose unless you sit together, despite the fact that your spouse is annoying you. But you have a common purpose. It's the same thing in a football team. Those of you interested in football, the fullback may not like the forwards. But if the team is going to win, they accept each other. They may not love each other, but they accept each other and they work together. Of course, if there is love, it will make teamwork much easier. But commitment to the goalpost, getting the ball to the goalpost, will make the team work. And that's what you need to agree with your wife. You have a common purpose to which the two of you are committed. Without a shared dream, a marriage relationship will eventually die. That's why this idea of leading a purpose-driven marriage means you as the leader should put priority on discussing purpose, vision, and mission. A good marriage doesn't just happen by accident. It's a commitment. You as a leader must do the legwork to make it happen. You must also remember, for you to got the same purpose, you don't need a contract. Do you approach your marriage as a contract or a covenant? The Bible clearly reveals that covenant oneness with your mate, oneness that is spiritual, emotional, and physical, is God's ultimate goal and purpose for your marriage. In fact, he says, the two shall become one. In a contract, you don't become one. There are escape clauses. A covenant has no escape clause. It's until death do us part. What do you have? If you are going to be purpose-driven, it must be and since your purpose is long-term, you must need each other right up to old age. If you approach marriage as a covenant, you already have this built-in purpose to please the Lord. Your relationship with your spouse must be a priority. Of course, like relationship with God, and you must be committed to it rather than to your job or to your father or mother. It must be your spouse that's a priority relationship. Your spouse must be the next of kin, not your mother or your son. If you approach marriage as a contract, however, you are likely to emphasize rules and regulations of the relationship, and then that if you fail to do this, I have an escape clause. Covenants have no escape clause, I repeat. Many self-help books on the market offer practical rules for living with a spouse and promise that if you just follow those rules, you'll have a happy marriage. But keeping the rules is the problem. You need a commitment to the marriage. Whether the rules are broken or not, you are willing to go long term. As I got towards finishing, I want to spend a bit of time just asking the question, what are biblical reasons for your marriage? You know, Mark chapter 10, verse 2 to 4 gives you quite a bit of information, but I've run out of time to read. But you should go to marriage as a calling. I'm going to ask conclusion. You should go to marriage as a calling. If you are not called to singlehood, you are called to marriage. Go into marriage because it's not I wanted to marry, it's that God has called me to this life of marriage. Matthew 19:12 talks about some people that are single. And it says some are single because they are born that way. In other words, you cannot consummate your marriage. Even if you wedded, you can't sleep with your wife. So the best thing is don't get married. And the reason you are single is because biologically you can't get married. But others are made that way by men. And others have renounced marriage because of the kingdom of heaven. In other words, God has called you in order to serve him, he has called you to singleness. The one who can accept this should accept it, is what the word is saying. You know, you only achieve your life's purpose via God's calling. And if he has called you to marriage, you will not achieve it by being single. Don't admire single people. Oh, they are so free. No. That's their calling. Yours is to marriage. So you only fulfill your calling by getting married, however challenging that is. So the first thing is, take marriage as a calling. That way, if you go to a calling, and I told you calling is purpose, you will live to meet that calling. You will feel fulfilled when you get an object to receive your gift of happiness, because you feel God has created you to love others, to help them. And so he has given you somebody in your life. And what makes you happy is not what he does for you, but the fact that he is willing to receive whatever it is you are giving. Even if they do not give anything in return, your calling is to serve a woman. And that's part of the reason why you will stay in marriage, even if your wife is not doing her part. Number 2, please go into marriage as a cure for loneliness. You are committed to ensuring your spouse will never suffer loneliness. Look at Genesis 2:18. And the Lord God said, "It's not good that man should be alone. I'll make him a helper comparable to him." What are we learning here? That one of the reasons for your marriage is to give company. Enjoy giving, not receiving companionship. Enjoy giving companionship, even if the other party may not prove the best company. God gave marriage as the prescription for the disease of loneliness. So one of your greatest failure in a purpose-driven marriage is for your wife to be lonely because you are not available. Why? Because you are preaching. Why? Because you are working, you are spending all your time at work. If you want to be a purpose-driven life, you must restructure your life to be available as a companion. Thirdly, you must understand that you are in marriage, you are getting a teammate. The Bible we have just read says a suitable helper. This is, you have to accept, if it's a teamwork, it's give and take. Adam gave a rib, Eve gave company. Each gave and received. Team is incomplete until that happens. And here, it's complementary roles, not supplementary. You don't replace your wife, you complement her. She comes with something, but your addition to her life makes her more complete. We are talking about, what does being purpose-driven mean? It means you work as a team rather than alone. And you know something? They are right when they said, if you want to go quickly, go alone, be single. But if you want to make big impact, if you want to go far, go with another. So marriage will slow you down, but the impact you make as a couple will be far much better than you have made as a single person. And I like what Deuteronomy 24:5 says. If a man has recently married, he must not be sent to war or have any other duty laid on him. For 1 year, he is to be free to stay at home and bring happiness to the wife he has married. What's the purpose of marriage, bringing happiness to your spouse. And you start by spending a whole year where even if war broke, you are not allowed to go to war. You know, some of us go for honeymoon for 3 days. Here, the Bible requires a whole year of honeymoon. And I think that's the same thing Ecclesiastes 9 verse 9 is saying. Enjoy the life of your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your many days. For this is your lot in life, and your toilsome labor under the sun. So, purpose-driven. What's the purpose? Bringing happiness to the wife of my youth. And of course, it's also the only place you are allowed to have sex. Exodus 20:14 says, you shall not commit adultery. Sex outside marriage brings a curse. Look at Genesis 3:16. To the woman he said, I'll greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Does that mean you refuse sex? No. Listen to what the verse says. Your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. In other words, there is such a strong pull to each other that irrespective of the many challenges marriage has, it's the only place where you can meet your sexual need. Despite resulting pain, women, men are irresistibly attracted to their spouses. And that's what you need to understand. You know, the reason why, and I'm finishing now, that your purpose for your marriage is to form a godly team to fight. Just look at Jeremiah 2:15. Has not the Lord made them one? You and your husband and your wife, in flesh and spirit. In other words, you don't just sleep together, that flesh. You need to be one in spirit. You are his. And why one? Because he is seeking godly offspring. The reason your purpose for your marriage is to leave a next generation that worships God. So, guard yourself in your spirit and do not break faith with the wife of your youth. In old age, you should still be having the same girl. You know, it is marriage that will create this godly offspring. And I hope I have said enough, and I want to summarize in 4 ways. Number 1, marriage is God's calling. Number 2, if it's God's calling, you need a clear purpose. What has he called you to achieve as a couple? You need to clarify it. And once you know that purpose or vision, then you must say what your mission will be and what are the core values you are going to be involved in. Number 3, you cannot meet that purpose, that a family purpose, unless you are willing to stay in that marriage long term. And finally, it is God who will finally judge whether you achieved your purpose for him bringing you together. But be purpose-driven means there are many things other families are doing you will not do. Because the only thing that qualifies for you to do as a couple is what helps you to achieve God's calling on your marriage. Thank you very much. Sorry we took quite a bit of time.
Thank you so much. That was quite profound. Many lessons to draw from the lesson. Indeed, it's really worth being part of this conversation and just learning about having a vision, having a mission, and creating that purpose-driven family, purpose-driven marriage. Very great insight. We have a few minutes just to respond to any questions anyone may have. So if you're there, you have a question and you want to ask it verbally, can you raise your hand? I'll be able to spot it and I'll give you an opportunity to unmute and ask your question. If you would want to type your question, kindly just type it on the chat box. I'll be able to read it for us. And if you don't have any question, it's okay to just share your reflection, your feedback on the chat box. What have you learned? What has stood out for you? What lessons are you taking with you what is that one practical thing that you will do after this session based on what you've learned today? So just post that on the chat box. I'll be able to sample your feedback as we come to an end. So anyone with a question, can you raise your hand? I'll be able to see and give you an opportunity. Anyone? Anyone with a question? Or what have you learned? What has stood out for you? Just post it on the chat box. I'll be able to read it. But I can see a few comments. So let me read them. So I had read from Treasure, Kencom, Kenneth. Okay, I see you there. Strong Mohoti, 45 years in marriage. Yes, that's just testimony, and it's very fulfilling to know it's possible actually to get there. So a point out canceling a wedding due to the rains. I know Strong, that's very relevant for you right now. Kevin Owino says wonderful reflections. Thank you very much, Kelvin, for joining. PM says, wow, this is very profound. This is really profound. Thank you so much, PM Joroge. Patrick Irongo says, great teachings. Thank you so much, Patrick. Kevin Owino says, family vision has come out so strong. This is a big one. Thank you so much for picking that out. Sawa, if you have any other comment, just drop it on the chat box. I don't see anyone with a question. And we appreciate. Maybe I can ask one question on behalf of the team. John, when now it comes to providing leadership, some of these insights, for some of us, they are coming before marriage. For some, it's during marriage. But now on the part of the man, in terms of providing leadership, to actually get these things done, the ones that we have highlighted from the lessons, what are some of the practical ways that can be done in the family context, or how can you initiate the process of getting that vision, that mission, that purpose so clear, and the core values as well, so that now you start living them out? So if maybe you could share insights on that, that would be great.
Number one, I've written a book on purpose, how to discover your life's purpose, and you can get it from Scripture Union or the digital copy from Amazon. Since I didn't have enough time to deal with the how to develop vision, mission, and core values, I would encourage you to pick the book from Scripture Union or from Amazon. Number one. Number two, I think this message was recorded. You can actually take it and allow your spouse to listen. Then after you listen, don't take too long, agree to go for a date that will not discuss sweet nothings. You just start asking yourself, according to this checklist that we discussed in the meeting, how are we doing? Do we even have a vision and mission? The first date is just saying, do we need it? Why is it useful? Once you have agreed that, now you create another date where each one will do their vision, mission, and core values separately. Then you now have a third date when you start comparing and saying, this is against this. How can we work together to ensure now we have a vision statement for the family, we have a mission statement for the family, and you have core values that are now for the family. Once you have done that, the next thing is you now start preparing an action plan. What do we do before we get children? What shall we do after the children are born? What shall we do as it relates to work? What shall we do as it relates to ministry? What is it we need to do in order for those birthday speeches we were hearing as we are thinking about our long-term impact, for them to happen in the end? I must be doing something now. So you write an action plan, which can be reviewed regularly, but already you are clear in your mind. This is what you want. For example, if one of the things you see long term are children who have grown with biblical values, then you ask yourself, can we achieve that by taking our primary school child to a boarding school? Okay, the boarding school may help him to pass well, but then our vision and values do not allow us to take the child to boarding school, because that's not the best way of ensuring we get in our child what our vision and our calling says. So the vision and core values will now be the one dictating how you make decisions. It makes family decisions much easier, because it does not matter if it came from the wife or husband. What matters is how close is it to assisting us to get to our vision. When that happens, you have debated it, you have allowed enough time, and the two of you have agreed, it will be much easier to live your life, because you are going towards the same direction with the same boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First, my great appreciation to Elder John. I think for me, I'm honestly lucky, and thank you, Kim, for organizing this. I mean, I think it's so beautiful that the first session was a purpose-driven marriage, and then it just comes, okay, I'm just so happy. It's coming like 1 month to me getting into a family. I'm super excited, and I think I've gotten an agenda for our next date. Yeah. I honestly, we've talked about our purpose, in marriage, what we want to do, our goals. But to be honest, we've really never written them down. And I think that's something that's really coming out so clear to me, that it really has to be written. It has to be constantly reviewed. Are we still on it? And let me also say that I identically thought on the part of the core values. Honestly, we don't have that. Okay, I don't have that, especially that is marriage oriented. But thinking of it now, it's something that we really should have. So I think I really feel like really expressing my joy for attending this session. May God really bless you, Kim, and so much thanks to you, Elder John. May God increase you, kabisa. We impact our generations and our children even. A question to me, for me rather. Sometimes, now that I am definitely going to write down our goals and our visions and keep reviewing whether we are on track. Does it happen that some years down into marriage, let's say it's 10, 15 years into marriage, and you feel that we need to change our vision, we need to change the long-term purpose for our marriage, for example? Do such things happen? And if they happen, is it like an alarm that something is not happening, like we didn't begin right? Or do we just flow with it and change according to the waves? Basically, is it okay to re-edit the vision a long while into the marriage? Thank you.
Let me answer in 3 ways. Number 1, if vision is calling by God and you have prayed and done your best as a couple to agree with it, it's very unlikely to change. The wording, the phraseology may change, but it's unlikely to happen, because remember, it has to be biblical, and the Bible doesn't change over time. So your vision is likely to be the same. However, your mission can change, because mission depends on the gifts and the external environment and the internal environment. That's how you arrive at the mission. What will you do? You and me can have the same vision statement, but our missions will differ, because it depends on our giftings, depends on our circumstances, external environment, internal environment, in order to arrive at what you will do. So that should be reviewed and can change over time. And changing it is not the husband changing or the wife changing it. It's something you debate on the basis of experience and in trying to ensure you actually reach your vision. So I agree, mission will need to be adjusted over time. Core values, unlikely, because they are all biblical. If you are going to talk about values, they are values the Bible has given you, and the Bible will not change, so it's likely to remain the same. However, if you have not done a thorough job in your vision statement, you can adjust it with the time, but I doubt that if you have done a thorough job, your vision will change over time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, and I identify with that, and something that has come to mind as you are responding to that question by Strong, which is really quite relevant for us young people who look forward to many years in marriage. In your book, the one that you mentioned on living. Discovering your life's purpose, you highlight something on the SWOT analysis, especially on a personal basis. I don't know, does that apply to marriage when you're coming up with your vision and your purpose for your marriage, the SWOT analysis?
Remember, I have said you need a vision, you need a mission, you need a core value. Once you have it, you need to develop a plan. It's called a family development plan. I told you it will be stating our first years of marriage is what you emphasize, or next years of marriage in retirement is what you emphasize. So you need an action plan, and if you are going to write an action plan, it will give various ways of going into the future. For that to happen, how will you write an action plan without a SWOT analysis? I've already made reference to it when I said you look at your external environment, you look at your internal environment. External environment is how are we going to be operating? What are likely incomes? Internal environment is how has the Lord created us? If God has not called you to be a preacher, you can't start saying that we shall meet our vision by my husband becoming a preacher, and he doesn't have the gift. So you must do a SWOT analysis that will influence your mission statement, but more importantly, it's the one that will be there for your action plan. Yes, SWOT analysis is a must. If you are purpose driven, you need a vision, mission, core values, then you need an action plan. Things you are planning, and the action plan is reviewed constantly. In fact, almost every year, you need to look at it and say, we didn't do well here. We need to do better here. But the action plan is assisting the vision, mission, and core values.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Yeah, that is insightful. Yes, thank you so much. I see our time is coming to an end. Anyone with a burning question that you want to ask now before we close? Anyone? Let me read a few comments that have come in. Patroba says this is the kind of information we need. Thank you. Thank you so much, Patroba. Jedidia says, from the wisdom of Elder John, rooted on the scriptures. Thank you so much, Jedidia. Kennedy Kangeza says, I'm much enlightened by the teachings. Thank you for this. And lastly, PM Joroge says, my take home is one of the most profound insights from Elder John's presentation was the importance of having a clear vision as a couple, one that extends beyond the immediate family and impacts the church, the community, and even international goals if we have them. Marriage is not just about two people coming together. It is a God-ordained institution with the potential to shape generations. As a couple, we must be intentional in defining how our union will influence our children, ensuring they grow up with values that reflect Christ. Beyond parenting, our marriage should be a pillar in the church, modeling love, service, and godly leadership. We should not limit marriage to our houses or homes. Amazing reflection right there. Sounds like a huge blog post that we can build on that. Thank you so much. Great lessons right there. So I'll request our speaker to maybe share any final thoughts he could be having or pray with us as we close. Then I'll make an announcement even as we close. John?
May the Lord truly help us to first of all identify our vision and mission. And we say to identify vision and mission means to hear God's calling on your marriage. And may we make a commitment on our part to actually follow through. Lord Jesus, I want to pray for every man that has listened to this discussion. I pray that you help us to appropriate what we had into our lives and our spouses' lives, so that this meeting would make a positive impact on our marriage. And because of that positive impact, is going to serve your the kingdom purpose. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.